Welcome back to Gold Derby. I'm Christopher Rosen. I'm joined by Joyce Ng. And Joyce, we're back to the Emmys. Anti-penultimate episode of Emmys.
Uh, yeah.
We
Unless
have,
we still have like our post mortem after
right.
the ceremony.
That feels like a bonus episode.
Is it?
That's for the real ones. The after show.
You know what we don't do for the Emmys that we do for the Oscars because Oscar people are so much more crazier? We don't do like our ridiculously early Emmy predictions.
We don't. I don't even want to do that because it would just be the
There-
same shows,
Well, no, because there'll be new shows or returning shows next year.
returning shows.
More returning shows. There are like some new shows. So, yeah.
I think we're not going to do that. I mean, I guess we could if you want, but I don't know. But we're back here. So this week we're doing Emmy ballots, Joyce. The voting is closed. If you're watching this, you can't vote anymore for Emmys.
Yeah. As we're recording, it's still ongoing
Yes.
because today for us is August 20th, but
Yes.
today for you is August 29th.
So the
And voting
miracle of
closes
pre-recording. If anything
August
happened,
26th.
if anything happened over the last 9 days, it's not going to be
We
talked
don't
about.
know. We don't know. We only know what's been happening up until Tuesday morning right now.
But I'm sure nothing's going to change. And it's going to be
We'll just
great.
have more campaigns. Like
Yeah,
so in the past 5 days, what new campaigns have impressed you? Because you love a campaign.
I do. I'll tell you, not necessarily impressed, but I'll tell you two people I spoke to who have been everywhere as well are Christopher Lloyd, who is
Oh
just
yeah, yeah. The
everywhere.
variety feature yesterday.
Yes. And Sally Richardson Whitfield, also
Mhm.
everywhere for her
Yeah.
historic nomination. I talked to both of these people. Lovely interviews. You can watch them if you want. Uh, the Christopher Lloyd one, I'm like, I think he is going to win. I have him in first. I'm not going to change off of that. I
He's
think he's
he's
going to win.
never lost an Emmy.
He's never lost an Emmy.
It's
He's
been 30 years since he's
an absolute legend of the industry. Everyone loves him. He's hilarious on Hacks. They love Hacks. And like we had said, John Bernthal would have won for this episode last year, perhaps, when he was eligible, even though it wasn't for this episode. So I'm like, I don't know if John Bernthal's going to win. Everybody's got him in first, but not me. I'm sticking
yeah.
with Christopher Lloyd.
Um well someone who has also always been campaigning, Walton Goggins, still everywhere.
Everywhere. He's double
So,
dipped. I've seen him double dip with people. They talk
oh
about phase
yeah.
one and phase two.
Yeah. Like now that White Lotus season 3 has wrapped, he's back on the grind. Like he has more time on his hands too. But
Yes.
yesterday his Conan episode dropped too.
He's
Like timing
everywhere.
is everything too.
I, like I said, I feel like with Walton Goggins, it's twofold. It's no disrespect to him, who I absolutely love him on Fallout. I don't believe he is win competitive for
No,
Fallout.
I don't think anyone really believes that either. Like I don't think, not to put like words in his mouth or anything or
Yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
into his head. But as we've always talked about, this is like teeing up for White Lotus season 3 next year
I think
too.
it's, and I do think also it's teeing up for Fallout season two. I think Fallout season two, if it is as good or better than the first season, will be more widely embraced even than the first season was. I
Yeah,
think it'll
but
like
that's
take
still
a
a
long way.
long ways off because they haven't even started filming that yet. So it's not like
True,
he's going to be back next year for
true,
Fallout season 2. But I think it's a good reminder of like how great he's always been. And he's on a bunch of shows like Righteous Gemstones. Like he's filming Righteous Gemstones. Like he's back um doing that, like Vice Principal. So like every interview I've read or seen of him, and even like the one I did with him, like I talked to him, like it's like there is like some mention of his repertoire, of his resume. Like he and
right.
I talk about Justified, obviously.
Cannot.
So, and like someone always brings up, one of his like past shows or films, right? So it's like this guy has always been great. Yeah.
Uh,
I
other,
also love yesterday what
yeah,
the LA Times a feature on Steve Martin.
really nice.
Yeah.
And they're getting into promo for Only Murders season four too, which is great.
Yes. Which as you're watching this premiere 2 days ago on the 27th.
Oh, so we could mention. I love this season, Joyce. We've seen 7 episodes.
Yes. I mean I've always loved the show. Every season I've loved.
I kind of feel like we've talked about that. I feel like every season's like a solid B, which is good, right? Like it's a B show. Like I'm like it's never bad. It's always good. And I always say this. I probably said this last year. I'm like I think this is maybe the best one yet, but I don't know. So far we haven't seen the finale. Obviously, they only sent the first 7, but I love what we've seen so far. I think everyone's like top of their game.
The show is one of the most consistent
Yes,
shows in terms of quality, which is high, and also just like rollout because every year we get a season.
it's great. They're really on it.
Very, very few shows.
They treat it like a real show, Joyce.
Yes. And yeah, this season is really good, still 3 episodes to be seen.
So we don't know how it ends. I will say this: it's the starriest season yet.
Yeah, we kind of mentioned this last week with like their guest star situation
Yes,
and who like most of their guest stars who have been announced, there's one that we can't talk about.
right.
Um and yeah, but most of them have been announced, and I would say most of them would have to go supporting.
So I was going to ask you this. So most of them we have announced, including, like we said, like the first promo art was Zach Galifianakis and Ava
Yeah, we know
Longoria
those. So
and
so
Eugene
Zach,
Levy.
Zach, Eugene, and Eva Longoria will for sure go supporting because
Yes,
so Zach is in one more episode than Eugene and Eva are. I think Eugene and Eva, from what we've seen, are in 4,
yes,
and Zach is in 5 because he has like a short
um,
scene in one episode.
brief. Yes,
And this is, I mean, I'm assuming they'll be in at least one more episode of the remaining 3.
yes.
And
How about
then
Molly Shannon?
I think she's already at 5 actually,
I think so too.
because she's in the premiere. She's definitely in 4, 5, and 7, and I
Yes,
think she's in a little bit of 6.
and she would have to be in the final 3, I would imagine as
At
well.
least one of the, and then
Uh,
Richard Kind and Kumail Nanjiani I think are also already in 5 because of
yes,
just like bit parts
yes.
in some episodes. Da'Vine Randolph, she's in 4 right now, so I think she'll be in at least one more because she's way more involved in the case this season than she was last season when she was just in one episode.
She is hilarious in this season.
She is so great.
Her and Molly Shannon are my two favorite. Molly Shannon is absolutely
I
hilarious.
mean,
Like,
listen, I've always
holy
said
cow.
Da'Vine should have been nominated for season 1.
Well, she might get
But
nominated for season 4, I'd say, based on this so far.
I think it'll be a little bit tougher just because it's so crowded. They have so many
They
options
do.
too. And then Jane Lynch, I think she's only in 3 so far. She's actually not in it a lot
I I
right
think
now
you're right. Again, I watched all like kind of in a
because it's
row.
2, which is like her biggest one,
Hmm.
if you remember 2.
Yes.
And then sh I think it's
She
4.
might be though. I don't. She might be in 4 already, and I feel like she'll definitely like even if it's just bit parts. You know what I mean? Like she's not like
Well, she's definitely gonna obviously
yeah
be in the remaining 3 somehow when we see how she
right
does. But she'll be supporting, I'm assuming too. But like right now, I'm just saying this is not like
right
a like Jane Houdyshell situation where like she got a last day of Bunny Folder,
yes.
you know?
And then Meryl is back, but seemingly not in 5 so far.
She is currently in 2.
Yes.
She can reach 5 of the remaining
There's
3,
3
but right
left.
now she's in 2.
And she has a showcase. Really, the 7. I think it's the 7th episode is the last one they sent us. That is like the showcase episode, I would say, so far of
It's
all the
great.
talent.
That one is the most star-studded one, and Melissa
Really,
McCarthy is also
yes,
in that one.
yes. And she was
They
announced,
already
I think, and in the trailer
Melissa
too.
was announced, and they also revealed in the trailer that she is Steve's sister.
Yes.
So
Really enjoying this season. I don't know. It's gonna be tough for me to pick a fave, but I think it could support it. The way the season is so far, I think it would support multiple supporting nominees of the famous. We didn't even mention Eugene Levy, who we'll talk about here in a second as Emmys host. He is also very funny and has some really great stuff with Steve and Richard Kind. I really like they pair the 3 of them or group the 3 of them together. But
yeah,
my fave, Zach Galifianakis, I just find
that
absolutely
is
hilarious.
hilarious. And
Like
there is because there's an episode where the 3 of them are just doing character work, like the actors
yes,
are doing character work with
yes.
the trio, so they get to hang out,
It
and yeah.
It's amazing. Zach is truly amazing. He is so funny. It's really great. And Ava Longoria too is really funny, I think, especially with Selena Gomez. And they make fun of how the age difference there is. It's really great. It's good.
Yeah, there's a cameo in one episode that I loved.
I was surprised. I'm glad we're not spoiling that because I was very surprised by a lot. I was surprised honestly by that and Melissa McCarthy, even though I just forgot she was in it. But I know
You
they announced
forgot
that.
Melissa McCarthy was in it.
I just did, but I know that they announced that and like also like that she was in the marketing. But I didn't
Yeah.
realize that that's who was going to be playing Steve Charles' sister.
Well, yeah, because they didn't announce who she was playing, but then in the trailer they just revealed that
Yes.
she plays the sister. So you can talk about it because that's not a spoiler. It's
Uh,
so, but yeah, a great season. And it premiered after voting closed, so it's not going to affect it.
no. But hopefully, I think we'll see next year what it ends up being. And then we mentioned Eugene Levy hosting the Emmy shows with Dan, his son,
Yeah,
which was rumored
confirmed.
for weeks. They finally announced it a couple
Confirmed
weeks ago.
on Friday the 16th.
Yeah.
So
So a couple weeks ago, they announced that. Great. I love them. They're going to be fun, I'm
sure.
sure. The Emmys is a show that I don't think the host is significant. Like, it's not as thought of as significantly as the Oscars. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, so I think
Well,
it'll
I
just
think
be
that's
good.
just because the Emmys aren't thought of as significant as the Oscars.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Uh, Other campaigns, back to that briefly before we move on to the ballots, Joyce, which I'm so curious about. Shogun just putting pedal to the metal. I've seen them everywhere. The creators, Hiroyuki Sanada, all of them. It's just
I mean,
everywhere.
like Anna, I feel like she is like storying something every 30
It,
minutes.
they're just like not letting up.
It's
It's
everyone
really
except
good.
Cosmo as usual.
Right. And the morning show, just full court press for this.
Okay, so today, this morning on August 20th, what do you think of Greta Lee's Calvin Klein campaign?
Well, online the response is a lot of like the cartoon wolf, it seems, like
Yeah.
Auga from
Hmm.
people online, which I always find like a little like uncouth, I would say. Not that she looks great, but I'm just like, I don't know. You're not texting your friends about this. This is on social media, but sure, everybody each their own. Great looking Calvin Klein ads. Good
Yeah.
for her.
Looks fantastic. Yeah.
I feel like Greta Lee is definitely in the position where not maybe as ready as Walton Goggins, but in that like Andrew Scott, Greta Lee, Walton Goggins thing where it's like people are just waiting to get them a role where they're just gonna steamroll. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a TV show or a movie or whatever, where they could just say Oscar winner Greta Lee or Emmy winner Greta Lee. I don't know when that's gonna happen, but like all these things are just like
Well,
kind
I
of
mean,
building
I think that's
momentum.
definitely the vibe on the internet with her.
Yeah,
I don't know how so much with the industry because obviously Walton has way more years on her.
true.
So, um, and I also don't think like the internet is as invested in him as they are in her.
Interesting.
So,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. But yeah, morning show people like John Hamm, Holland
Well,
Taylor, who
everyone.
you talk to.
Loved Holland Taylor. She was
Yeah.
wonderful.
They're also
Uh,
shooting season 4, as we know right now. So
and as you know, I can't wait. Bring it back. I'm so psyched.
I just like think of like all the stuff they could cover,
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. I'm so excited for them to come back with it.
like Israel and Gaza, the strikes.
They'll definitely do a strikes episode. I wonder if that's why Jen, as Alex, had oil thrown on her when she is crossing a picket line. Joyce.
She posted some because they actually shot on location in New York, and she posted some photos from that day on Instagram. They were also in the library, the New York Public Library. So
Who knows?
yeah.
Yeah, all of these shows have done a good job, but I don't know. I don't know if it matters. Like, I think it is what it is. Hacks, I think, like we talked about, like all, like I guess the one I was like the most not surprised, but like I feel like Shogun has really gone above and beyond, which I think is necessary because, like we said, like a lot, like maybe for an American audience or a Western audience that is not familiar with some of these people, just keep reminding them how much you like the show and the actors.
Um, yeah, I guess. I don't think it did anything more extreme than what it did like just during regular promo, but
Yeah,
I think like they've always been active, I would say.
right.
Unlike, let's say, The Bear. Very
There,
unactive. But Liza Colonzayas, she's been out there.
she is out there building her case for maybe a season 3 win. I don't think she's going to beat Hannah Einbinder
Yeah.
in season this year.
And then the fellow travelers boys have been out there too.
Uh,
Panels, a lot of panels over the weekend.
which I think you need, right? Because we said like the Academy not always really present for Showtime.
How many like voters I mean, we know that that Oscar voter loved shaking RDJ's hand, but how many voters do you think like really care about that face to face time?
All of them.
Because it's like I saw this act, not even like having a chat with them, but just seeing them in person, like at a Q&A.
I think seeing it in person in a Q&A is not super necessary, but I think if you get in the handshake
Like
and if
RDJ style.
yeah, that RDJ thing works. Gotta shake a hand. It's about kissing babies, Joyce. Shaking hands and kissing babies.
Where was Mark Ruffalo? What happened that day?
No idea. But he lost an Oscar potentially because of that. He definitely lost the vote.
I don't think he lost by one vote though, so I think it's fine.
I think so too. Uh Joyce, so we have some ballots. You use your industry contacts to get
It's not
some
my industry contacts, it's just my friends who are voters.
anonymous ballots. I was trying to make it sound like good. It's not just your friends; they're in the industry, Joyce. This is insider
I
info.
mean, like I guess I would say it's not like I think a lot of the anonymous ballots for Oscars that we have, like the 50,000 of them that we get every winter, I think a lot of those are more outreach to voters
Mm-hmm.
to get. So like these are just like my friends who I just like text
Okay.
like, hey,
Okay.
who did you vote for?
So who'd they vote for, Joyce? How many
So
people we
these
got?
are the same people from June
Okay.
that we discussed their nomination ballots
I'm
already.
so
So it's the
psyched.
same people. So voter A, same voter A as last time.
Right.
So for comedy series, to recap, in June, voter A voted for The Bear, Hacks, and Only Murders. So who do you think, or what do you think voter A voted for to win?
And just as a reminder, they're only voting in program, right, for these three, right? That's what we're
Yeah, all
doing.
of these voters are only eligible to vote in program. So I don't have any acting
Right.
category for.
I think for that person who had those three shows, I think they voted for The Bear.
They did.
I think if The Bear is on your top three, then you would just vote for The Bear.
They they did not enjoy season 3 as much, but they know that this is for season 2. This Emmy cycle is
Interesting.
for season 2 of The Bear, but they also really liked Hack season 3.
So maybe
So
we'll see.
so for drama, voter A in June voted for Shogun, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Justified City Primeval, and The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live.
Sure.
So what do you think they voted for to win?
Shogun.
They voted for Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Wow. I should have went with my fave. I went with my head.
Why didn't you?
I was like, oh, obviously Shogun. Mr. Miss Smith is fantastic.
So they picked that because they enjoyed watching it more.
I mean, that's an interesting way to describe it because, like, eventually that's probably what it comes down to, right?
I mean,
What do you
yeah, I
like?
think most people watch shows and movies to be entertained.
So if you're gonna like it, you'll vote for it. Interesting.
Yeah. So the last one I got from them was limited series because they abstained from a lot of the other categories.
Sure.
So in June they voted for Fargo and True Detective Night Country. So what do you think they picked?
So is it possible they've caught up on Baby Reindeer since then, or did they just
I mean,
ignore
you have
Baby
to decide
Reindeer?
for yourself before you guess.
I'm gonna say Fargo.
Yes.
So I guess my rationale for that pick would be if they didn't watch Baby Reindeer, why would they ever watch it? And so if they liked Fargo, then they would just vote Fargo. You know what I mean? Like I don't think people like I guess I'm too cynical, but I'm like, do you think people really if you not like these shows are surprise like Baby Reindeer was a surprise in terms of like it came out of nowhere and was a late addition, but you had months and months of runway to watch it if you're an Emmy voter. So if you haven't watched it by voting, are you really going to watch it in the next week or at that time? So if you haven't caught up, like I guess I would just say Fargo.
Yeah. So if you recall, voter A in June, they had not watched a lot of shows before
Yes.
casting their ballot, which is
Yes.
why they didn't fill out all 8 slots or all 5 slots in limited series. But they did tell me that since June, like they have since watched Fallout, but they didn't vote for Fallout to win.
Hmm.
So they hadn't seen Fallout before nomination ballots,
Interesting.
but they've since seen it.
Okay.
So we didn't discuss Baby Reindeer, but just assuming they just haven't watched it still. So
Gotta guess, yeah. Interesting. So nothing there would change my thoughts on this. I still think Shogun, like the Bear, I guess they would say in this case, using one voter out of thousands, that the third season of The Bear, even if you didn't love it, did not really impact your thoughts on the second season, at least in this voter's mind. So we still have that Bear winning series anyway.
and then so now onto voter B.
Yes.
So voter B back in June filled out all 8 slots in comedy series.
Wow, an overachiever.
So yeah, so they voted for back then Hacks, Girls Five Eva, The Bear, Only Murders in a Building, Curb Your Enthusiasm, Abbott Elementary, The Gentleman, and Loot.
Wow.
So what do you think they voted for?
The Bear.
Hacks.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Good choice.
They in general like Hacks more than The Bear. And I don't think they've finished season 3 of The Bear. Obviously, this is not for season 3, the Emmy cycle. But
Okay.
yeah, they were struggling to watch season 3
Wow.
of The Bear.
Ice cold.
Yeah.
Hacks, great. Love it.
And then for drama in June, voter B voted for Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Elsbeth, The Gilded Age, and The Crown.
I'm going to say Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm going with my heart.
That is correct.
Yes.
Now you're just going to change your prediction to Mr. and Mrs. Smith. You got 2 votes here. This is like your Girls Five Eva change.
No, but maybe. I'll talk about it after. I'll recap this after, but I have like one thought, I guess.
Okay. So yeah, like so this person has watched The Crown since season 1. Like they love the royals, but they found the season 6 to be substandard. So they were just not going to throw it like, a legacy vote in the end for, the final season or anything. So yeah. So they enjoyed Mr. and Mrs. Smith. So
great.
Yeah.
I did too.
Yeah, I did too. Did you see that allegedly tons of stars want to be in season 2? Yeah, they won those Emmy nominations.
I would love to know what season 2 is going to be.
Yeah, they're still playing coy about like whether or not, Donald and Maya are back after that Variety report that was like they're not back.
Wouldn't you set it in the same timeline? That to me feels like what you could do. Set it within the
It's the same verse. It's like we already met, a bunch of other Mr. and Mrs. Smiths.
And the season really does take place across a long timeline. So you could have Maya and Donald return next season as guest stars in an episode or 2, right? Like, I mean, like, anyway, I could imagine that happening where it's a separate Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
That we didn't see.
Okay, so for limited in June, voter B voted for True Detective, Baby Reindeer, Fall of the House of Usher, Fargo, and Hunks in the Air.
Wow.
Not nominated, of course.
I'm going to say Baby Reindeer for this one.
That is correct.
Yeah.
They just picked it. They said like they didn't really love any of the nominees that much, but they just picked it.
So we talked about this in terms of the other categories where, like, I think certainly for directing and maybe even a little bit for acting for lead actor, because I'm obviously, like you said, like John Hamm has been really pounding the pavement here on people really like the season of Fargo. But certainly with like series, I just feel like there's like even like this person saying, like, even if you don't love any of them, why wouldn't you just pick Baby Reindeer? And there's no real strong consensus.
Yeah. It's not like they like hated any of these.
Right.
So
if you're just not like, you're like, all these are fine.
Yeah. And then for TV movie in June, they voted for Monk and Scoop.
Monk, I would guess.
The Scoop.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah. You like Scoop.
I did. It was good.
Yeah. So then some other ones that they gave me, they did a Daily Show for Talk, Conan for hosted,
Hmm.
Usher for variety, and Billy Joel, your fave,
I got
for
Billy Joel going all the way, Joyce. I think he's gonna pull it off.
variety pre-recorded.
Yep.
Yeah. So voter C in June, they voted for Hacks, Only Murders, Girls Five Eva, Based on a True Story, Ghosts, Reservation Dogs, Abbott Elementary, and The Bear.
Hacks.
Yes. Wow, no second guessing there.
No.
I don't even know if this person has watched season 3 of The Bear yet.
I mean,
But they're not generally into The Bear anyway. So
yeah.
So for drama, in June they voted for Shogun, Slow Horses, Tokyo Vice, Will Trent, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Loki, Monarch, Legacy of Monsters, and Reacher.
Shogun.
Slow Horses.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's the first person to have Slow Horses and Mr. and Mrs. Smith together that we've done.
Of from what they nominated, yeah,
Yeah.
this is the first mention of Slow Horses.
Yeah.
The other two did not
No.
nominate Slow Horses. No.
So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, but they prefer Slow Horses. I mean, most of their picks did not get nominated, obviously.
Sure.
So
Still waiting for that Monarch nomination.
maybe for season 2.
Can't wait.
So for limited, in June, they voted for All the Light We Cannot See,
Okay.
True Detective, Under the Bridge, The Sympathizer, and Hunks in the Air. Most of these did not get in.
No. Baby Reindeer?
True Detective.
Okay.
So they voted for the one that did get in.
Sure.
Yeah.
I was trying to overthink it. And I was like, what if they just went with
something that was nominated that they didn't vote for?
Yeah.
So for a TV movie in June, they voted for Monk, Red, White, and Royal Blue, and Turtles All the Way Down, as you recall.
Red, White, and Royal Blue.
That is correct.
So I think that might actually win. And certainly they've done enough campaigning to make
it. They've been everywhere.
That has been the most campaigned movie, whatever.
I don't know if it will work, I guess, for a lack of a better word, but I mean it's definitely like the people's choice online.
Yes.
So
not a strong category.
No. And I don't think it's one they think about that much either. So
right.
So for talk in June, they voted for Mulaney, Hot Ones, and Seth.
Wow. So Seth, I would say.
Yes. And then this one is not that difficult, but in June, they voted for Usher as their only nominee in Variety.
I guess Usher then.
Yes. And then they gave me some other ones for reality competition. They did The Traders, Conan for hosted, diners, drive-ins, and dives for structured reality, and Love on the Spectrum for unstructured.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good picks.
So yeah, you got two Mr. and Mrs. Smiths there.
So here's
what Mr. and Mrs. Smiths, no Shogun, 1 Slow Horses, 2 Hacks, 1 Bear, 1 Fargo, 1 Baby Reindeer, and 1 True Detective.
So here's what I think this tells me based on 3 anonymous ballots.
3 ballots from like 25,000.
This is what I think. I think Baby Reindeer is like in terms of series, no competition for Baby Reindeer really. I think it's just gonna clean up. I think Shogun. I think we're right. I have Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Slow Horses right behind Shogun. Like I know The Crown I think is higher in the odds and probably The Morning Show. But I definitely think the Mr. and Mrs. and Slow Horses are the alternates in drama that will not win because I think Shogun will easily win there. But I do think there is a lot more enthusiasm for Slow Horses and Mr. and Mrs. Smith than there is for The Crown and The Morning Show.
Yeah, I would say that's, I mean, just in terms of nominations in general, I think you know, morning show is missing obviously writing,
Yes, and
you know,
editing, I think.
yeah, and editing, key nominations. It's really carried by the actors, and
Right.
this is its first series nomination.
And Mr. and Mrs. Smith also kind of, for its nominations total, padded by the actors, obviously, but also did pretty
Yes.
well in terms of writing
It's
and
more
directing.
well-rounded, yeah. And Slow Horses, obviously, this is its major breakthrough for its third season, but it has a great collection of nominations. It hit everything it needed to hit.
I I want to go to slow. So in terms of picks, like I was like, I still think I don't think Shogun will win drama writing. So I think for me it's between like Mr. and Mrs. Smith and Slow Horses, and I have Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And I know you have Slow Horses, and I'm like, what if it is Slow Horses and I'm just being a dummy and like I really like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. And then for drama actor, I do think that's a lot closer between Gary Oldman and Hiroyuki Sanada than maybe people think. So maybe Slow Horses wins both writing and acting, or maybe they split. Maybe Mr. and Miss Smith wins writing, and Slow Horses wins acting, and Shoguns win everything else. I don't know.
I think Shogun would still win series. Like I don't think
Yeah,
I'll move off of that. But yeah, I mean I've always had Slow Horses and Mr. and Mrs. Smith right behind it.
yeah.
In 2, 3.
And then for drama, and then for comedy, again, three people. I'm not going to switch to hacks, but I think this is actually the closest series race that we have, and I think it's much closer maybe than people want to think. And I still think the Bear will win, but I think Hacks is like going to be within. If they ever release the vote totals, it would be like within the same. Would be not a huge gap, I would say.
Yeah, I think like last year it was probably a blowout for the Bear.
Yes.
And this year the conditions are different. For obviously Hacks was not around last year, so but like for both shows, like one is competing with its strongest season yet, and they're definitely out there. I would say even more so than like the first 2 seasons. I'm talking about Hacks, obviously, like campaigning and promoting it, and like you have said before, like they are able to talk about the show being funny and an actual comedy in a way that is not like publicly dragging the Bear and like all the accusations of it not being a comedy, even if other people in the Hacks circle are tweeting about it that way.
Yeah.
But like the front facing people are not, like Paul W. Downs,
Right.
and like Jen and Lucia.
And they don't need to say it because you know what they're talking about, right? Like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
knows that they're talking about the bear by not talking about the bear.
yeah.
Uh,
So, and like it's not like they're the only ones either. Like, you have like Abbott Elementary writers doing the same
sure.
thing, right? So
The other, so in terms of hacks, like I said, I don't think I'm going to switch to hacks to win. I guess it depends on like creative arts. If it like cleans up the creative arts and the bear is like taking on water, then maybe I would say hacks is going to pull off an upset. But I think in terms of hacks, it is like the perfect, like you said, I don't think it was close at all last year for the bear. But this year, you have the Bear season 2, which was great, and everybody really loved it. But it's up against Hack season 3, which was also amazing and more recent. So I think you have the recency bias also in favor of Hacks, where it's like, well, I just watched season 3 of Hacks and it was awesome, and I just watched season 3 of The Bear and I didn't love it as much as season 2. And so while season 3 of The Bear I don't think is really that impactful, it is maybe in that regard. So all these things feel like a perfect storm. But I think that's why I think Hacks will win more maybe like it'll win the two actresses and the writing category over the bear and you know not win series basically. I think it'll win like it could win a lot but still not win series, but I think it'll be very close. I think this is the closest race.
yeah, and I think the other thing too is like the Bear is also just bigger culturally, like I think Hacks is very popular online. I think Hacks is more like a Succession. Like Succession is big online, but not really big with the general public, right?
Yeah.
Like the actual like linear ratings are not like Game of Thrones style, like but everyone talks about it online like it's huge. Whereas like I think the Bear like did break through like that. Like more normies know about the Bear than they know about Hacks.
Yes.
So I think that's like kind of the edge, especially if you're just kind of a casual, even if you're neutral on both shows, but like you're probably more familiar with the Bear than you are with Hacks. If you're just like, oh, I have to vote and like, oh, these shows.
Yeah, But I think in the certain like writing, I think is they're gonna it's
I
like,
mean, writing, I've always had hacks.
and I
So
think it's just like the more I hear, the more I'm looking at this and like hearing like these anonymous ballots, the more I'm like, I just can't. I actually can't imagine it losing in writing at this point because I just feel like there's such a momentum in terms of A, that it's a comedy, B, the backlash was strongest seemingly against writers and comedy writers. It just is like this is I definitely think a place where Hacks will like show its strength as an alternative to the Bear, I guess.
and it's won before, like it won for its first season,
Yeah.
of course, beating Ted. And like I predicted it back then because I was like, because Ted also had two nominations back then. And it's not like it couldn't win for one of those, but like to me at that point, it also felt people like love Ted Lasso, the show, like the characters, but like you don't really talk about the writing or the direction that much. I think we talked about this back then. Like people talk about like the episodes as a whole, like make Rebecca great again, right? Which was
Yes.
one of the nominees. But it's not really like specific about the writing, really. Whereas like Hacks is actually about comedy writing.
Yes.
And I was like, I think that actually had an edge there back then. And they obviously submitted the pilot, which, it was like Deborah hiring Ava and everything. So, and with like branch voting, it's just the writers voting for it. So I was like, I
Mm-hmm.
think it will win there. And it lost the following year to Abbott, which also made sense because that like Abbott was the buzzier show then. And now, yeah, I think with um just yeah, like the all still like the accusations of the Bear not being a comedy, I feel like it's louder now than it was last year because people don't enjoy season 3 as much. Because
Yeah.
the thing is, it's like when you like something, you are more forgiving of like flaws, for lack of a better
Yes.
word. So like last year, most people enjoyed season 2. So even though it's like there was still chatter about the Bear not really being a comedy, it's like, yeah, but the show was good. So like, who cares? Right? The season was great. But now like the reception to season 3 is more mixed. So it's like it's still not a comedy and this season wasn't that great. So like why is it in comedy?
Yeah. I, it's like as interesting as this is to talk about, I'm actually so excited for the next Emmy cycle because I do think like if Hacks is back with season 4, which I
They
mean
are because like they're
probably,
about to shoot in the fall.
and it
So
can't take that it last the season 3 there were so many issues getting that season up and running between the strikes and Gene's health and like so many delays. It's still in reality it's not that I can't imagine it takes very long, like you said. So they'll
no, and
probably be back by May.
normally they can finish it and get it out by because they drop in May,
Right. So
usually
if they're
always.
back in May and the fourth season is as good as the third season, which would be it would be have to be really great, obviously, because the third season was so good. And I believe that they could pull it off. Man, it'll be so interesting next year to have like Only Murders with this stud like lineup of actors and a great season, Hacks with another killer season, and The Bear with a mediocre season by its standards. Like that feels like a wide open comedy category. Plus, we're not even talking about shows that we don't even know what'll be there, right? You know what I mean? Like maybe
Yeah, like
something comes out.
they're well, like Shadows is
Right.
back in the fall, and then um Wednesday at some point.
Wednesday's back, I think, in October, they said. So that'll
So
be there.
and obviously Abbott. Bad Monkey right now.
Really good show.
Ranking.
Pretty good
So
show. I think yeah, I'm like, I think next year is going to be crazy. It's going to be like
so maybe
really
we should
wide
do a
open.
ridiculously early Emmy predictions.
Maybe we should. I don't know. Maybe we should.
I mean, HBO also has the franchise
Yeah, that's
at
true.
some point. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, at this point, I'm not moving off of the Bear for series as
No,
much as I
no.
would love for Hacks.
But I do think Hacks will do really well, and I do think this is the closest series race to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've always said like that felt like the case anyway, especially once we watched season 3 of Hacks and it was so strong.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most people had the Bear and Hacks 1, 2 anyway. Maybe some people had Abbott in 2,
Right. Right.
but yeah.
Just we're gonna hit emails now.
Do we have another game?
No games, and Michael's back. We have just a programming note. So we're gonna do This week we're doing Emmys. Next week we're doing our Creative Arts Emmys picks.
Yes.
Following week we're doing our final Emmys picks. Prime time.
Yes.
Then we're back Sunday night after the Emmys to talk about it. And then
Yes.
maybe that following week we'll do an early Emmys and then also Oscars. Maybe we'll do 2 that week. Why not?
Sure.
But we're going to emails for now. So emails at slugfest@goldderby.com. Get all your Emmy stuff in then over the next few weeks because then we'll take a break. This one's from our old pal Harold and Maud.
Oh, Aiden.
Yeah. Hi, Joyce and Chris. I know I haven't written in a while, but I've been watching some of the Emmy nominees and they're actually good. I just
What?
got done with Shogun
Did
and
you
I'm
think they were gonna be
actually
bad?
I just got done with Shogun, and I'm actually distraught that Cosmo Jarvis missed the nomination here. I honestly preferred him to Hiroyuki Sanada, who's also incredible. The Sympathizer was the only show I kept up with weekly, and to see it go out like this is too sad. Park Chan-wook and or Fernando Meirelles missing out on a directing slot for Feud instead is just a joke, but I'm hoping, maybe coping, that it can make a better run in the winter. Lastly, this has nothing to do with TV, but I wonder if either of you had seen the recent IndieWire 100 Best 2000s Movies list, and particularly what your thoughts were on Spielberg's AI being number one.
I did not like peruse the list closely, but I would not have picked that as number one. That being said, I don't know what I would put at number one myself because I don't think about these things.
I don't know what I would put at number one myself either, but I just want to read off. These were the list of movies that Steven Spielberg did in the 2000s, which would be eligible. AI, Minority Report, Catch Me If You Can, The Terminal, War of the Worlds, Munich, Indiana Jones, and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. And in terms of what I think of the list, and AI being number one, if I was ranking those movies, AI would be the 5th movie on those Spielberg movies. So I would say Catch Me If You Can, Minority Report, War of the Worlds, and Munich are all significantly better than AI.
I love Munich so much, man. I feel like Seth
Fantastic.
Rogen in Knocked Out.
So good. War of the Worlds, his War of the Worlds is amazing. Catch Me If You Can is probably, I think, one of his best movies. So
It's very fun.
So I would have AI 5th among Spielberg movies of the decade. So no, I would not have put it at number one overall in the decade. But I actually don't know what I would put.
Yeah, I
at
don't know
number
because
one for
I
that
don't think about
decade.
this. Yeah.
Probably like No Country for Old Men or There Will Be Blood or Michael Clayton would be in there. I think those are like the 3 best.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I've only seen AI once. So,
Or maybe Zodiac.
oh my God, Zodiac.
There's there's a lot of great movies that I would say that you
Speaking of underappreciated RDJ gems,
great.
I will say that Sympathizer only submitted Park Chan-wook for directing,
Yes.
so Fernando could not have been nominated because they didn't submit that episode. So
I have not a lot of hope for it in the Winter Awards.
no, like the linear ratings were terrible. And it's just like, as we've always said, like it's such a arty show that and there was like really no buzz for it like anywhere. Like it's a great show, but it just feels like no one cared to discover it.
I think it would have been like I think the Critics' Choice Awards are like front runners anyway, so I don't think they would like pick it because it just feels like a loser now. No disrespect to the show.
I mean, they have a lot of slots. So I actually like their TV nominees are the most interesting. They're way more interesting than their film nominees.
So you think it could get in there? Maybe.
I mean, they have like 10 nominees. Like,
if it gets in there and Washande gets in, that'd be nice. But
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're winning.
I think Downey would get in no matter what. I think he'll get in everywhere.
Yeah.
Like as a name check. Just like he did at the Emmys.
Yeah, I think like maybe could get like a guild nomination here or there.
Would be helpful.
But I don't really expect like PGA.
No, I don't.
You know, and then yeah, Cosmo was deserving of a nomination.
And I think Cosmo's frankly the lead of the show, and also
he is the lead of the show.
So that's why I think I'm tilting towards Gary Oldman. This is like I just think that like. On one hand, it's great that Cosmo's not there to siphon votes off of Hiroyuki Sanada.
He wouldn't have hurt him that much anyway.
I don't think he would have hurt him. But on the other hand, I think it just shows that like maybe they weren't paying that much attention to the show, and the actors weren't as into the show as we think, which we know based on how it performed, and that opens the door for Gary Oldman maybe to win. I don't know. Mike is back, Joyce.
Game or no game?
No game.
Writer's block again.
Let's read. Hi, Joyce and Chris. It's me again, a game master under the influence, Mike. Once again, thanks for entertaining my game 2 weeks ago and sharing some stuff about your pop culture life and interests. For everyone's sanity, including myself, I'm only sending one letter for the dual episodes you're recording that you're doing. Also, I want to give a shout out to my new favorite Apple TV series, Bad Monkey. Is it prestige? No. Is it enjoyable? Very. I just love the vibes. This is a long email. I just want to pause here. I actually think the stuff Apple TV is with Apple TV lean into Presumed Innocent and Bad Monkey. That's a great pocket.
Yeah, I could see both of them doing okay in the winter, like Golden Globe nominee Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
anyway, back to Mike. We were supposed to play a game this week, but I decided to delay it because I want to rant and discuss this tweet that I saw that made me cringe. Last week, it was announced, or this is 2 weeks ago now, it was announced that the Prime Video series My Lady Jane had been canceled after one season. I saw a user on Twitter respond with, quote, maybe I'm part of the problem, but this is why I just don't watch things anymore. Then I saw people's comments and they agreed, as they said things like, TV shows need to start having 3 guaranteed seasons and then maybe get canceled. But at least there's a set amount of time to tell a good story. Or, I wait for shows to get renewed before I start them. I've been spurned way too many times by good shows lasting only one season. Or, honestly, this is the solution. If we stop watching these things until they have multiple seasons, they'll be forced to give us multiple seasons. Wow. Holy crap. Do people forget that TV shows only last when people watch them and support them from the beginning? I get that consumers, it's more convenient to watch a TV show if it has 3 seasons and a complete story or whatnot, but this has always been the nature of television from the beginning. Producers make one season. If it's a hit, the network or streamer will renew it for another season. There were very few instances that a show gets a 2-season series order from the beginning, but that's rare. For the most part, TV shows produce one season first, and then it will get more seasons if people watch them. That did not change in streaming. For decades, we've been seeing shows on broadcast networks get canceled after one season or even after only one airing half the season, and then we just move on and understand that it's part of TV. We even played games about it when I started sending emails to you guys. It's always been like this and never changed. It's all part of the TV business, whether we like it or not. What do you think of this discourse? I really want to know your thoughts. Anyways, that's all. Thanks and have a great day. And Chris, don't forget to report to us about Telluride and your rendezvous with Edward Berger and Ray Fiennes. It's from Mike.
you're just gonna be all over Letterboxd.
I will be all over Letterboxd, and I will be at there's a Focus brunch that I got invited to, Joyce. To see you there on Saturday.
Are you gonna like tweet selfies? Like,
no, I don't do that shit. I'm not taking selfies with these people. They don't want to take a selfie with
no,
me.
they don't.
I don't even want to talk
Leave
to
them alone. Leave them alone.
One time, I not even no disrespect. I'm just like, what am I going to say to these people? We talked about this last week, but I went to that Tastemakers thing for his 3 daughters.
Yes, yeah.
And I was talking to Azazel Jacobs, who's the writer director. They brought him over to me, and I was like, all right. I mean, I'll talk to. I actually interviewed him a million years ago for a movie he did with John C. Reilly. I forget what it was called. Let me see. And I was like, oh, I interviewed for that, and he was like, cool. And then we talked about his movie. And I was like, oh, this thing was cool. It was like Chris Farley show shit. I was like, oh, Terry was the movie. I was like, hey, that was cool when you did that. Why'd you do that? He was like, yeah. And then he was like, I gotta go. I felt like the scene in The Bear where that chef is talking to
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter. That's what it felt like. He was just like, get me out of here.
It's always the worst when especially when like a rep brings the talent over to you. Like, I gotta do this for like 2 minutes. And it's like, it's nothing against the talent. It's
or the reps.
The reps.
Everybody's doing their job.
Everyone's doing their job. And it's like, I'll talk to you, but like sometimes you just run out of things to talk about. And it's like you have to exit a conversation.
So somehow. No selfies. But if I do see Ray Fiennes there, I will say, what's up? I loved you in Grand Budapest Hotel, and you should have got an Oscar for that. And I'll say, Edward Berger, where do you keep your Oscar? And see
your imaginary Oscar.
Joyce, I gotta say, I never even heard of My Lady Jane, but I saw it was canceled, and people were upset.
Well, I didn't watch it, but some of my friends watched it, and they enjoyed it because it was just like wacky and crazy. There was a horse. This email also sounds like it's from Judgmental TV Fan. We haven't heard from Judgmental TV Fan in a while.
Joyce, we might have an email from Judgmental TV Fan.
Wow, what a tease! But this, as you were reading, this we had another instance of this cycle of tweets last night for us, the 19th, because The Acolyte was canceled.
So
Very,
people were,
very similar tweets of people being like, why do we watch TV shows anymore? And like, this is why I don't watch TV shows unless there are multiple seasons, like same shit.
it seems so anathema to just the existence of television.
Yeah, like what Mike has laid out. Like TV has always operated on this. It's like you watch, and if the show is successful, then it will likely get renewed, right?
Yes.
And TV, broadcast TV, used to be weekly. So like you would watch an episode a week. You had to wait for the next episode. And like binging has really fucked everyone's concept of TV
Hmm.
because it's like Netflix. You could watch these 10 episodes all at once. So people do that. And then they think that's what normal TV is like. And it's not. Like I remember when WandaVision premiered and people thought it was a novel concept that Disney Plus was dropping it weekly.
Yes.
I'm like, that's just TV, guys.
Yes.
That's normal TV. You get an episode a week.
I also, in terms of this, again, like I said, like I couldn't tell you one thing about My Lady Jane. Is it a period piece, Joyce? I didn't even Google it.
It's like a fantasy historical. It's based on a book, which obviously you wouldn't know about. So yeah.
I'll say this: when shows I loved got canceled, Girls on the Bus, Gossip Girl reboot, I didn't see a lot of tweets being like, "I'm not going to watch TV anymore." So I think it also is like a, I don't want to say virtue signal, but I think it's certain shows that draw this out on people online versus
I
like
mean, obviously with the Acolyte.
other shows that are this. I think Acolyte was a weird spot because I watched a few of the episodes as well. Not my fave, and I just didn't finish it. I think I went back to watch the finale, so that's not true. But I kind of passed on it, and I was just like, my sense was there was a loud, vocal, angry Reddit incel community that did not like the
Well,
existence
yeah,
of the
there's
show.
always like the racist fan
But
of Star
the
Wars.
show also wasn't great, and so then people felt like they couldn't say the show was bad or they didn't like it because they'd be teaming with the people who were bad. Did you get that sense at all?
So I didn't watch it at all because
Okay.
I'm not into Star Wars. So
Sure.
I couldn't care less about this. I'm sad for the fans, like you don't
Yeah.
get a season, but
Yeah.
like I'm not invested in Star Wars or the Acolyte.
Yeah.
But yeah, my while it was airing, it I think they're like the people who liked it, I think they liked the actors in it, like
Yeah.
obviously Manny Jacinto. And they liked that it was exploring a different story, basically.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say like what I saw over the summer, like I wouldn't say there was a lot of like actual acclaim. It was just more that like people were enjoying watching the show, which is fine. Like I enjoy a lot of shows that are not actually great, you know?
We mentioned a few
So
before on
yeah,
Apple.
and then obviously, yeah, like the Star Wars fandom is also very toxic. So there was or always gonna be a built-in section that was gonna hate it from the jump.
Yes. Yes.
So that's like separate. So it is so yeah, so like the cancellation, it feels like that side won,
Yeah.
or
Even though
like
I mean, I think it's not just Star Wars. I see this in a lot of things where it's like if the side you hate says something you agree with, you're less likely to agree with it because you don't want to be agreeing with the side you hate, even if it's a
yeah.
good point.
And then like the other thing too with the show was like it was obviously expensive to make, and the ratings didn't sustain itself over
Yeah.
its run either. So the fake numbers, whatever, like it wasn't in like the fake top 10 of whatever they were
No.
using to track things. So yeah, I like it does, like the optics kind of suck because as we know, a lot of streaming shows, especially on Disney Plus, they're just like they air a season, it's like, oh, they're just like hanging in limbo. Like we don't know if there's gonna be a
Yeah.
season 2 of this or not, and it's just like it's there.
Yeah.
Like we don't know. But like so this is like they're an outright cancellation. But I would say, yeah, I think this is like a modern practice of people putting off investing or just discovering new shows because they think they're owed multiple seasons before they watch. I'm like, no, just watch the show. Like I've watched so many shows that got canceled after one season or even like 5 episodes. I'm like, that sucks, but I enjoyed watching the show. Like one show, there's like no one has heard of, maybe Mike has heard of the show, like A to Z. This was an NBC sitcom from like, I don't know, like 8 years ago or something. And like I enjoyed like what like the 6 episodes that aired, and then it got canceled because the ratings were bad. So although like people would kill for the ratings now these days, and I'm like, that's like I was sad, but you move on, right? But like this is just how TV works. Like you need to watch something, and then the powers that be know that there is an audience for it to, and it's also different now with streamers because like I think that there is an issue of these long gaps between seasons. Like that should not happen.
That's really, I think it's hard to get people excited for a show when they forget it exists.
Yeah, like I think that's a separate issue too. Like that's like unrelated to like cancellation because like with broadcast it's like you get the weekly episodes and then you get the full season order of your new show, and then by the spring you find out if you're picked up for the next season. So, but I think like the contracts and streaming are just more like flexible. Like you just like people can like do other projects, which is not the case with like broadcast contracts. It's like you're pretty locked in for like the 7th season or whatever, like the
Mhm.
options. But I would just say like if you like TV and you like shows, like watch them. Like don't wait for 3 seasons before you get into a show. Like
Pretty crazy. Joyce, this one's from Gabriel, who had written last week as well. Hi, Joyce and Chris. I'm back with my second email this week because we're pre-recording. Buckle up, it's a long one. After commenting on season 1 of House of the Dragon last week, or 2 weeks ago now, I have finished all of season 2 as well. My issues with the show are less about the lack of action or the pacing and more about the general absence of the elements that made Game of Thrones so compelling. Most importantly, I struggled to find even a single character to root for. I was more invested in many B characters in Game of Thrones than I was in the main characters of House of the Dragon. Not that characters always have to be likable, but there should be depth to them that makes them interesting to follow regardless. And not only do the characters of House of the Dragon lack depth, but their actions also frequently fail to make sense. As a result, I found it to be difficult to be invested in the story, and even the plot twists and battle sequences failed to properly excite me, even if on a purely technical level, they are not too far off from similar scenes in Game of Thrones. With all the conflicting discourse surrounding True Detective Night Country, I decided to give that a go, since it looked interesting enough in any ways, and I have finished that as well. The setting is put to great use and beautifully captured by Florian Hofmeister, who should have won the Oscar for Tar, by the way. It's a bit of a shame he's up against Robert Elswit for Ripley, because both would be excellent winners. I found the Corpsicle to be hilarious, but I also wish the characters who are perfectly warm and sane would stop having nonsensical visions. The freaky dead woman that Navarro kept seeing is going to keep me up at night, and it's safe to say I'm never watching this again because of that. The first few episodes were intriguing enough, but I think it kind of fell apart in the finale, and try as I might, I couldn't take the big reveal seriously. Some storylines were hastily wrapped up, such as Peter's reconciliation with his wife and Liz's reconciliation with Leah, or weirdly just dropped entirely, like Leah's girlfriend never being mentioned again after their falling out. On the bright side, the performances were strong, especially Jodie Foster's turn as Liz, no fucks given Danvers. Are there any shows you would recommend that utilize a similar snow-covered, blizzard-ridden setting? Also, I was sad to see that My Lady Jane had been canceled by Prime Video. That was a fun show with some great costume sets and needle drops. Emily Bader and Anna Chancellor were perfectly cast in their roles. On the other hand, I'm delighted that Apple has given renewed my beloved Dark Matter for a second season. The show far exceeded my expectations with its fascinating exploration of world jumping and surprising emotional punch. The ending left much to be desired, and I can't wait to dive back into that story. It takes a few episodes to get going, but Joyce, I think you might enjoy it because it's one of those shows that isn't a comedy, but is deeply unserious at times. That's all for now. Have fun to tell you, right, Chris? I'm not jealous at all. That's from Gabriel. a
wow, a lot there.
lot to consider.
I would say for House of the Dragon, the characterization or lack thereof or whatever you want to call it, that is something I've heard from like some of my friends, like someone who works at another outlet. They were like pre-season 2, they were doing like a catch-up guide basically for the season, and they had watched the first season and they were like, I don't remember any plot, but that was also 2 years ago. So then they, read up and everything and they wrote the thing. And then for the rest of the season, they were just editing stories for season 2. And like they said, every time they'd open every week when they were going in to edit a story, like they just forgot like who all these characters were because it couldn't, the names and the characters could not stick in their mind.
Right.
So I mean, I haven't seen it, but it seems like that might be an issue with
Seems likely.
the show. So yeah. Yeah, I think True Detective Night Country needed 2 more episodes. It did feel it felt both rushed and long, even though it was only 6 episodes. Like the plotting was weird.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the show, but like the plotting was weird and like things were hastily wrapped up or just like forgotten. And like the other 3 seasons had 8 episodes. So I feel like it needed 2 more episodes.
Do you think they gave it only 6 episodes because they weren't sure on the bet and they were just like, let's just do 6 and
I
like
think Issa has said like she wanted 6.
okay.
She has said that like that was like her plan all along, but I think it could have benefited from more.
Yeah. Do you think Jodie Foster is just a lock to win here? We talked about this a little bit, but
She feels like a default winner. I think she's great on the show and she would be
yeah.
a great winner, but she does feel like a default winner, you know what I mean?
Do you think this is only because Fargo has been so out there? I mean, do you think like Juno Temple actually has a shot?
I don't know. I mean, like Fargo has never won an acting award either, despite the many, many actors who've been part of the show and who've been nominated before. So I don't know if and I think like, a lot of people were expecting more nominations than it got. This like Jennifer Jason Leigh.
Right.
And Sam Spruill. So it didn't, it got her, John Hamm, and Lamorne Morris a surprise, which is great.
People are into him winning, maybe, Joyce.
I also love his campaign, using his daughter, roasting him for crying.
So, really nice.
Yeah. Love when you bring out the kids
to
campaign. But I don't know if like Juno is even 2.
No. I think Brie Larson maybe is 2,
but and then other snowy shows, I would say anything Nordic. There are a lot of Nordic thrillers.
It's true.
Yeah.
David R. back, Joyce, to respond to Mike. The feud continues.
His game from last week?
Yes.
Okay.
I think in that email, Mike said, thanks for writing from your basement.
Right.
Hi, Joyce and my queen, Joyce. Hi, Chris and my queen, Joyce.
Wow, you're not the king?
No. I couldn't resist responding to Mike, the lame master. I'll be brief, as I'm sure Mike's got a spirited round of award speech Mad Libs lined up. David L., please Google what brief means. David R. just throwing haymakers all over the place.
Oh my God, these are just like fastballs, man.
No, I'm not writing from my basement as Mike suggested because my basement is flooded. Just kidding. I wanted Chris to get Chris to say my basement is flooded. Mike, your main character era is single-handedly ruining the mailbag segment with your tedious games. If this were a Friends episode, it'd be called the one where the game bombs. Remember, a little gameplay can be fun in moderation. Joyce and Chris, if Mike persists, remember in War Games when the AI figured out how dumb nuclear war was and said the only winning move is not to play? Sincerely, David R. Now, I don't disagree that some of my games have been tedious, but I like the one last week where we got to talk about ourselves.
Because you just like talking about yourself.
Of course. Pretty bird. Pretty bird. We might have to take a break on the Mike games if we're going to lose David R.
I mean, again, David R could just skip his question to segment. Do we need to start like time stamping the Mike segment?
I mean, maybe we should pull it out and like alert people. And Mike, if you're sending another game, I don't know. And I'm sure you'll fire a haymaker back here at David R. I like that one where my game bombs. That's good. Now we're back to David L.
Mike has admitted that some of them are bad, to be fair.
True.
So
now we're back to David L.
Is this brief?
Oh. Hi, Chris and Joyce. It's the award campaigner for power couple Saoirse Ronan and her new hubby, Jack Loudon, David L. To respond to your comment on the X-Men series the other week, myself and many others strongly disagree with your opinion, Chris. The only X-Men movies that weren't any good were The Last Stand, Origins Wolverine, and Dark Phoenix. The others were all great and still watchable. I rewatch Days of Future Past every year. It's much better than most of the corny MCU films, and there's many jokes that I still laugh at. Your loss, Chris. He named like 3 terrible X-Men movies. So just
And like, I mean, yeah, those were bad. I mean, I don't, sure.
can't disagree.
Yeah.
I can't believe they actually chose Eugene and Dan Levy to host. Now we know this might be the most interminable Emmy show, and we all had to sit through Anthony Anderson and Kenan Thompson's train wrecks hosting the last 2 years. If you excuse me, I'll be hiding my eyes the whole time through the unnecessary bits they will do on the main telecast. I love Eugene and Dan Levy, but I'm not a Schitt's Creek fan. Thank God for the mute button on the remote. My question is, Joyce, do you think the reason the winners were all chalk at the Emmys last year was because the final voting period for the winners was in August when the strikes were both still going on and no one had time to put much thought into their picks? They really weren't paying attention based on how competitive the category of comedy actress was, and based on the fact they picked Quinta Brunson over Rachel Brosnahan. Quinta felt like such a lazy default choice that I fast-forwarded the speech and just pretended it didn't happen. I really liked the first season of Abbott and the first half of season 2, but I feel like Abbott's quality has deteriorated with every season. It'll keep going that way, like the Emmy noms it'll keep going that way, just like it's Emmy noms every year. Also, Joyce, help me settle a debate I'm having with someone online and explain why the Janine Gregory relationship is just not earned, because I absolutely agree with you. It does feel really forced, like they're trying to replicate a Sam and Diane relationship. Chris, have fun at Telluride. I'll be checking your letterbox thoughts on all the films there. One film I feel like will be a dark horse this Oscar season is The Brutalist, based on that it's a focused release about the
It's
Holocaust
also like 4
survivor
hours long.
paid by Adrian Brody. It's 3 hours long. Brady
Brady
Corbett
Corbett,
movie.
yeah. Remember Vox Lux?
Who could forget? Interesting stuff here. I love David L. Is David L. the only person on earth who is a Dan and Eugene Levy fan, but doesn't like Schitt's Creek, the most popular thing they've probably both ever done?
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a Schitt's Creek stan either. I think it's fine, but I also don't know what that really has to do with them hosting, because they're not hosting as their Schitt's Creek's characters.
I think you could kind of get the sense of what the material is going to be, though, based on Schitt's Creek. They have their speed is
Sure,
what it is,
but
right?
it's like it's still it's not like we're gonna get 3 hours of them. Like we'll get like 10 minutes of them in the beginning, and then
I think it'll be fine.
like
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be fine. They'll probably do like a package here or there,
It,
but I don't. This is why I don't care about hosts. Like it's just not important.
in terms of the Emmys last year, that's an interesting thought about, did the strike impact because people just didn't care, basically, or they just like name check, they're just defaulting, kind of, they got other things on their mind. And does that this year, with being able to solely focus on voting for the Emmys, does it change anything?
Well,
Not
I don't
really.
think anyone is solely focusing on the Emmy and
You don't
voting
think so?
Emmys.
We are. No,
You
we're not.
are
I'm
like
not. I'm
no.
focused on movies already. I'm out on the Emmys.
I mean, I don't think voting for like any of these shows, like people are solely focused on the voting.
Okay.
I think like awards nuts are focused on it,
Sure.
but I don't think the actual voters are.
Okay.
But I mean, like last year, like yeah, like there were obviously bigger fish to fry in the summer with both strikes still active. And voting was happening at the normal time this time last year too. So, but I think like I think it might be like partially that it's like they don't have time to think about it or don't care to think about it. I mean, you could say last year they had time to think about it because they weren't working, you know?
That's the other thing.
Like right
We
now they
talked
are
about
working.
that.
Yeah.
So
they actually had more time last year to catch up and think deeply about their votes.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I don't know.
Like I think it's like, I mean, the shows like Succession, The Bear, and Beef, like they're already big anyway. And then I think, I mean, like last year, I think last summer people were just watching The Bear season 2, right? So I think that was part of it too. And it swept. And with like, yeah, like comedy actress, it was open without Gene around. But I think they had also just kind of fallen off of Maisel too at that point. Like Tony Shalhoub didn't get in, and we've talked about like how hard it is for like a former winner to win again after losses, right? So even if like I thought Rachel Brosnahan was great in the Maisel series finale, But I'm not surprised that Quinta won because like Abbott of those shows last year was still the strongest in the lineup because the other ones were like Christina Applegate for Dead to Me
Yeah.
and Natasha Lyonne for Poker Face,
Yeah.
which won Guest Actress for Judith Light, and Jenna Ortega for Wednesday.
Yeah.
So,
I,
yeah.
one thing I disagree. I actually think Abbott is getting. I personally think Abbott is getting better. I like this third season more than the first two seasons myself. So I don't know.
I like the third season more than the second. I think we talked about this last year. Because season 2 so far is their only one where they did a full 22 episode
Yeah.
season, like a normal broadcast show, and season 3 was impacted by the
Yeah.
strikes, so they only did 14. And I feel like they like they didn't like their writers room, because Quinta has talked about like how their writers room has not changed since season 1, like, and I feel like they didn't come up through like 22 episode TV seasons.
Yes.
So
We
they're more
talked about this. Yeah.
comfortable writing like shorter seasons, like 13
Yeah.
episodes. As for Janine and Gregory, I just feel like they haven't, yeah, I think it's like they're just trying to have a will they won't they without investing in their friendship or like their individual characters and showing like why like they are starting to like each other or fall in love with each other. It's like it feels like every now and then like they just like toss in these episodes where like suddenly like he cares about like what she's watching, right? And like people like swoon over that line, and it's like, yeah, that's like a nice line to say, but like they haven't actually earned him the right to say that,
Yeah.
you know? So
I feel like again, I don't know because I don't know anybody who works on the show and I've never talked to anybody about it. But sometimes I feel like they're taking such a light touch with the relationship that it's like too light.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's just like
Mhm.
they haven't like we know where that's going. We've seen TV shows do this a million
Which is
times. So
fine.
like
It's fine.
that's
Yeah.
fine to do it. But I think their version of it is like, what if we did the lightest touch that these are two characters who are like very introverted and really kind of with themselves and their feelings, and we'll just like do this very subtle like lightness of their relationship, but it just doesn't work sometimes. I don't know.
Yeah, and then like the whole thing with him like confessing his feelings and then her being like no, and then she works for a district, and then all of a sudden at the end like obviously she's gonna come back to the school, and then like she is now like, oh, like I actually want to like be with
Yeah.
him, and it's like it like we need to see the work put into it more. Like that's why I didn't really like the double date episode.
Yeah. Uh all right, more emails. This one's from Olivia. Somewhat long, Joyce. Hi, Joyce and Chris. As someone who's been a fan of Slow Horses since the beginning, I was so happy to see Emmy voters finally discover the show in season 3. But I am confused by Apple's recent decisions regarding the show. What I mean is season 4 is premiering 10 days after voting for phase 2 closes. Why would they not time it so Emmy voters can remember how good the show is? After all, that's how The Bear won most of its Emmys, by strategically dropping next season around the time of voting. Meanwhile, the trailer for season 4 didn't even mention the show's 9 nominations. Gary Oldman and Kristen Scott Thomas are referred to as Academy Award winner and Academy Award nominee respectively, which makes sense, but Jack Lowden doesn't even get an Emmy nominee identifier. I'm not in PR, but do you think celebrating the show's success would be a good thing? And Apple is barely doing shit. Yikes. We love Apple here at this show.
Um, hold on, I'm just checking the embargo on Slow Horses season 4 so I can talk about it. I think it's up. Where's Slow Horses? Oh my gosh, too many S's. Here, Slow Horses. August 21st. So yes, we can talk about it. Yeah, that was strange. I guess not to tout the Emmy nominations in the trailer.
Let me ask you this. I feel like why is it not such a like we've seen this like it's network, it doesn't matter. I'm like it's
It's the
so
marketing
obvious.
team cutting the trailer
Well, not
together.
even the marketing team, like the release schedule. Like
Yeah.
it so behooves every one of these shows that is continuing to release during some kind of voting, because voters then will think they're voting for what they're watching and that they like, right? Like that is so clearly true. And
Well,
not
okay.
everybody does it.
So I think they actually dated season 4 for September 4th before Emmy nominations. So you could say they could have moved it
True.
up. But I guess like at that juncture, they maybe were not expecting Emmy nominations because like it hadn't gotten any at this point. So, but I think it was dated before July 17th. So, but it's also like it's not a binge drop, so it's like they can only air so many episodes before voting closes, right? And it's only 6 episodes. So but I do think like the trailer thing is more interesting because like you can brag about your 9 Emmy nominations and you can actually Chiron, the title card, Emmy nominee Jack Lowden. And like I understand why they're prioritizing Academy Awards for Gary and Kristen, who was not nominated at the Emmys. But yeah, it's just weird. It's like nothing, about like Emmy nominations, like best drama series or anything in the trailer. So, what do you think about the Slow Horses campaign in phase 2? Like they got it overperformed, right? And like Gary's been out there doing stuff.
Gary's been out there and Will Smith has been out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's important and that's going to help them win maybe.
But it's not the same because I think like we've said, I think is in a stronger position in series. I don't think it's winning series, but I think it's a stronger position than the morning show. But I think like the morning show is getting the bigger push because that is the bigger series.
I think the Slow Horses campaign is targeted to the categories they can win. And the morning show is like a Hail Mary series winner, but that won't happen probably. And Billy Crudup, right? So it's like it has no other really avenues to win anything.
I mean, it could target acting, like we know the actors love it. Like it could, like Jen hasn't done anything. I mean, not that I expected her to do anything really.
Yeah.
But it's like you could do that. And as like, yeah, Billy, like it's probably him or Tadanobu Asano. But yeah, interesting choice. I don't think it's gonna like it's obviously not gonna affect anything for the Emmys or even just the fans of the show, because I think there are already the fans of Slow Horses and they're gonna watch,
right?
And like they're not gonna care about the trailer not including the Emmy nominations. And season 4 is great. And I would just say next year, Jonathan Pryce supporting actor nominee.
Nice. Okay.
He's in every episode.
Good to know.
And they should run Jack and lead. Because the season is just about the two of them.
Wow. Okay.
So.
This one's from James. Joyce emailed us at slugfest@goldderby.com. Hi, Joyce and Chris. I know you've seen screeners for Only Murders in the Building season 4, which just premiered. I worry that a show that good and funny cannot maintain its quality for so long, but I'm hoping you'll tell me I'm wrong, and the new season is just as entertaining as the last 3. Also, has Hulu just given up on the show winning Emmys at this point? That's from James.
Well, we talked about season 4 earlier.
We did. I gotta say, I mean, I think it could win something for season 4
next year.
Yes. And maybe, I guess this year, maybe Below the Line. I think it'll win. It could win song.
I mean, like production design, song.
And music and lyrics. Yeah. So.
Yeah, like if we're talking about Above the Line this year, very difficult. I would say. I think a lot of people think Meryl can do it.
I think a lot of people still think Meryl can win. And I mean, maybe she does, right? Because she's Meryl Streep. Who knows? But we both think Hannah Einbinder is going to win.
Yeah.
Next season, I could see a winning maybe, but Above the Line in like a supporting category, but it's going to be tough because there's so many options.
So I think the good thing for the show is I think something we did or failed to identify this year because in for the first 2 seasons of the show is like they struggled to get in a lot of their guest cast, not like Nathan Lane and Jane Lynch, but like Jane Hudashell, right? Or like the victims. Like they couldn't even get in like Tina Fey, really. So I think that's why we were more cautious about Paul Rudd.
Yeah.
Who was the victim in season 3. And obviously everyone predicted Meryl, but yeah, it got its most acting nominations ever this year. And it got 2 guest acting nominations that no one was predicting really. Like Da'Vine was probably higher because of her Oscar win. But if she had not won the Oscar, I don't think anyone would have predicted her.
No.
So, and then Matthew Broderick, sure. So I think it bodes well for season 4 that like their special guest stars have been able to get through into supporting categories, but they have a lot more next year. So I don't know how that's gonna break down. Um, and yeah, and that's not even, mentioning like other shows in contention,
Right.
like The Bear
And
and
hacks.
Hacks,
Yeah.
you know.
Habit.
Yeah. And but I don't know if like a get like their like fake supporting guest stars would win first. I think it would feel weird, not that it can't happen, but I think if it would feel weird if like Zach Galifianakis won an Emmy for the show before like Martin Short and Steve
Yeah.
Martin did, you know what I mean?
Same.
So I
Yeah.
don't know, but I don't know. I don't think they've given up on it. Hulu,
No way.
no. I mean, like yesterday, they blasted out the video of Patrick and Paul and Steve Martin singing.
I mean, I definitely think that's gonna win.
Oh yeah. I
So
think like they're focused on the categories they
yeah,
feel like they're
and
strong
win.
in.
Yeah.
So
Choice Judgmental TV fan back. I tease this.
great.
Hello, I am back. I promise to get new material soon, but film Twitter just keeps embarrassing me.
Wow.
How exactly do they think the Emmys work? Case in point, this tweet about Jonathan Bailey's real. I will also point out that this was posted at the beginning of phase 2 voting, not the end. This is all laid out on the internet. I don't know why it is so difficult to think about. And it's a tweet choice that I gotta say I did not see.
I'm so excited for this.
It's from I don't even know who it is.
Do we want to name the person though?
No. I'm not gonna name them, but it's like apparently we're coming to the end of Emmy voting, so I'm ringing the bell again for Jonathan Bailey and his righteous, graceful, and all around brilliant performance in Fellow Travelers. There are many scenes that could be his real, but this a masterwork, and it's a scene from the show. And then the next tweet is my mistake. Emmy voting, it just started, but either way, point still stands.
Was this tweeted on like August 15th?
August 16th.
So the next day, second day of voting.
Yes. People don't pay attention to stuff, Joyce.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Judgmental TV fan.
Yeah. So Google is free. Like this person, obviously a fan of Fellow Travelers and Jonathan Bailey. I assume they saw the interviews that Jonathan did, like he was on Seth and everything. So they probably assumed it was Emmy voting. I would just say Google, and you could see that Emmy voting runs from August 15th to the 26th.
Always try to Google before you tweet.
The way that people just like type things and send them out to the world before checking with another human being or Google blows my mind.
It's a crazy time, Joyce.
Yeah. And then, yeah, I don't know what they mean by real. Like, I know the daytime Emmys used to do, they might still do, I don't know. They put together reels for their acting nominees. That doesn't work in prime time, so I don't know.
Last email, Joyce. This one's from Alexis, and it's just for you. Hi, Joyce and Chris. This is mostly for Joyce. Did all the annoying challenger stands even realize Cincinnati was last week? Also, this is somewhat related. The Olympics break everyone? I feel like so many people have not been playing up to their potential lately. That's from Alexis.
No, they absolutely did not know that Cincinnati just ended yesterday on August 19th. But I did not expect them to, because they're just fans of the movie.
Right.
So I don't expect them to be converted into tennis fans. But yeah, Cincinnati happened. And yeah, now we're heading into US Open. And I think people were tired from the Olympics. Like a lot of people who played the Olympics, some of them went to Canada, which was split between like Montreal and Toronto with the men and the women. And some people skipped that, but some people went and they lost pretty early. And most people who played the Olympics went to Cincy, and a lot of them also lost early. Iga went the furthest of the people who went far at the Olympics, and then she made the semis of Cincy. But like tennis is a grind, man, because there's a tournament every week. It's not the same as a lot of these other Olympic sports where you train your whole life. or every 4 years for that one moment, and then you might take a 6-month break from the sport.
Yep.
So, but yeah, he skipped Canada and he lost his first match in Cincy to Gael Monfils. I was very happy for Gael. But Carlos was played very poorly, and he also broke a racket. It was a great racket break, but he had never done that before. And then he apologized for it afterwards. I'm like, dude, you don't need to apologize. It's fine. It's fine.
That's it, Joyce. Those are emails.
Great.
So email us at slugfest@globalderby.com. We'll be back next week
With
creative arts, Emmys
all your
picks.
creative arts questions.
I can't wait to make all kinds of crazy picks there. And I'll be back from Telluride, I guess, Joyce. I'll tell you about it maybe at the beginning. Just say I was there.
Everyone wishes you a wonderful trip.
Yeah, they seem really sincere about it too. All right. I'll talk to you then, Joyce. Bye.